ABC, and then have Kristen jump on after that. Sorry, Kristen. That's like the third time I've done that to you. Have Maribel jump on after that. So Vice Mayor, are we ready recording-wise to go ahead and get started?
Just let them know on their end, so we're good. All right. Yes, and we are good. We're good to go.
All right, we can go ahead and start the El Portal Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force meeting of October 7th, 2020 at 3:33 p.m. And there we have Vice Chair Maribel.
Hi, sorry.
No,
I was at the school EESAC meeting. I drove myself home, so now I'm at this meeting.
No problem at all. We're just getting started.
Okay, good. I plan though, because Aaron's at Ty's Miami Arts Charter meeting, and so I'm gonna have to plug up. So give me a minute.
In the meantime, Vice Mayor, do you mind putting the flag up and we can have a moment of silent meditation and the pledge?
No problem, I'll do that right now. You guys can see that?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty, justice.
Okay. And Vice Mayor, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and doing a roll call.
Madam Chair, I appreciate it. Mayor McLean.
Present.
Mr. Kirk. Is that a present? We're good?
Present.
Vice Chair Fruitstone said present. Thank you very much. And Chair Carter.
Present. If you guys don't mind muting, we're getting some feedback. I don't know whoever's not speaking. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so looks like we have a quorum and moving to the approval of the agenda. Does anybody want to add or remove anything from today's agenda?
I wanted to bring up two things which I want to ask if we want to add to the agenda.
Sure.
Not sure if, Madam Chair, if you would like to add these or not, or if the members are ready to discuss them. We got an email this week from Councilperson Perella on streetlights. I don't know if that's something we want to discuss or put off, or whether we don't feel we're appropriate to respond. That's one. Vice Mayor Nickerson sent the El Portal Comprehensive Plan. Don't know whether we want to talk about that or not. And then logically, I wanted to switch H2 and H3, but my understanding from Mr. Vice Mayor is that the point of putting H2 was simply to introduce somebody, not to actually appoint them. So I'm okay with that. So those are my suggested changes. Or questions whether we want to change. Sorry.
Sure.
If I may, Madam Chair, as far as the comp plan, that doesn't have to be on this particular meeting. That can stay off for now. So.
Okay. Is that something, I know in the email you mentioned that that's not something that is going to come before us at all, but I assume Courtney was just wanting to discuss it so we can go over it and see if there's an opportunity to opine.
Yeah, we can do that. There was no motion coming out of it, so that's the only reason why. It's your decision. It's the decision of the task force, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, my point of including it was simply it was correspondence and information we had gotten this week or since our last meeting that we had been asked to at least be aware of, and potentially provide input. If we don't feel we need to provide input, I'm perfectly fine not adding it to this agenda or any agenda. Or if you say you want to push it off to later, I'm not pushing it at all. Just question, that's all.
Sure. I would suggest we leave it off for now so that, you know, in the case that we need to put it onto the next meeting, we can.
As Member Clerk was saying, Madam Chair, the comp plan will be coming before the council. I do need to make a meeting with Serbia for that comp plan. And remember, I reached out to the task force to ask if you guys have any questions or anything like that. You guys can email me those questions or comments, or we can discuss it at the next meeting, which is the 21st, which is still before the council meeting, which is why we scheduled our meetings the 1st and the 3rd. So I will still, even with the next meeting, have time to be able to get to Serbia with those questions, you know, if you guys don't have them today. So.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and put it preemptively on next meeting's agenda, and that way, if anybody has any questions, we can discuss it then, and we still have time to go over them prior to the next village council meeting where they will be addressed. Make sense? Does that work for you, Courtney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And then to your other point on the street lights, I don't really have an opinion one way or another about whether we should discuss that. I know obviously there's some wildlife implications that were mentioned in the email. Do you have an opinion on that, Courtney, or are you just bringing it up as a question to pose?
No opinion whatsoever.
Okay.
I like the fact we're going to LEDs, both for the electricity savings and the less frequent maintenance required. Having said that, honestly, the lumens and the brightness, I have no valid opinion on.
Okay. Does Vice Chair, do you have any thoughts on that, or Kristen, do you want to add that to the agenda? Or are you in the same position as Courtney and I?
I think me personally, like on principle, support any lighting change that will have a kind of reduce the impact on wildlife and birds and whatnot. So it might be good for us as a committee to make an express
Support.
statement about, yeah, exactly, you know.
Okay.
But
why don't we just add that to the agenda, and we can chat more through those issues at that. I would propose adding it as a
new
new
business.
item.
Yeah, it's a new business.
yeah, one of the things I do want to make sure though that I would put it behind the charter, because I think the charter is the most important thing we have to get done today. So
Absolutely. Okay, Vice Mayor, is there any procedural distinction between adding things to the agenda or just bringing it up in new business?
We can bring it up in new business.
Okay, just in terms of for the future though, since we have to move to adjust the agenda, what gets classified as new business that doesn't need a motion to update the agenda, and what needs a motion?
Yeah, so, all right, so if we were to add something to the agenda to where, first of all, we wanted to kind of like vote on it, or if it was something that has come up before, we would have to add it as an agenda item. The lights have never come up before, we've never discussed it before, so it can be new business.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So I'll add that down here and we'll discuss that with new business. Okay, great. So that being the case, I don't think we actually made any adjustments to the agenda. And besides preemptively adding the comp plan to next meeting's agenda, Vice Mayor, but I'll go ahead and move to approve the agenda as is then.
I'll second that, or I'll raise the issue if somebody, I don't know if the chair can raise it or not, I'm not sure.
Fair.
But I'll move to it, I'll move to approve the agenda as is.
Perfect. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maribel. So hearing a motion and a second to approve the agenda, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Hearing no nays, the agenda for today's meeting is approved, and we can move on to approval of minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any additions or changes they'd like to make to those minutes that were shared from Courtney via Vice Mayor's email?
No, I think they were very thorough.
Perfect as always. Perfect as always.
Okay, great. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Perfect. Thank you. All those in favor of approving last week's minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. Vice Mayor, do we have any special guests today or presentations?
We do not, Madam Chair, not today.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll open this up to good and welfare. I know we have Mr. Gladwin and Councilmember Urbom on the line, and let me see here. We also have Sandra Valencia in the audience. Is there anybody that wants to speak about today's agenda?
Madam Chair, Mr. Gladwin has his hand up, Madam Chair.
Yes. Perfect. Mr. Gladwin, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think my video's off, but that's fine. I just wanted to make an announcement that a week from Saturday, the Little River Conservancy and mainly FIU Sea Level Solutions Center on King Day is going to have a citizen science operation that Kristen's been working on, and you'll be hearing about it. But we're going to be I'm sorry. We're gonna be getting people to join them to measure the water that comes up from the ground in King Tide Day, and it will be an opportunity to learn a lot more about what's in the aquifer under us and various things like that. And I know we've been also talking to FIU about using that as a way to get some training and monitoring water quality, and maybe some instruments that we can get from FIU on that. So just wanted to bring your attention so you can be aware of it coming a week from Saturday.
Yeah, I'm going to post it to Nextdoor later today. There was some question just about, we had some internal question about where we're going to measure on the river. But basically, it's our first, it'll be our first event since the Little River cleanup in March, the last day of before we went to COVID lockdown. So it'll be the first time we're going to invite people to come out on the river in a socially distanced way to do a little science. So it's going to be fun. And it's basically, we're just linking to the FIU event, but we'll be, coordinating whoever wants to participate in the Little River and Shorecrest areas.
That sounds great. Is there any way, aside from Nextdoor, that we could share that to the village through the village listserv?
It's not an official village event. So my experience in the lab, that we haven't been successful in the past in being able to use that when it's not a village event. But we will be pushing an email to all of our past river participants. So we can, try to get more people involved. I will say though that we have somewhat limited capacity. So I think we've only, it's a kind of a first come, first serve basis. You have to sign up for one of FIU's spots. So this is something where we can accommodate 30 people as opposed to 100 people when we can do a cleanup. So anyway, we'll put it out there and encourage, and I maybe Omar, you can, I'll put an email out to you of what we put up to Nextdoor so that we can circulate within this group, and this group can propagate it also. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for good and welfare? Let's see. I don't see any. No, I don't see any. Okay, move on to agenda item H1. And I will turn this back over to you, Vice Mayor Nickerson, about photos and bios needed.
Appreciate that. I just want to say thank you, since that was on the agenda. Everybody's bios has come through, so I appreciate you guys. And all of your pictures look wonderful. You guys look like you guys should be on covers of magazines. I'm like, look at these images. And all the bios were good, very descriptive, and I appreciate it. So H1 is done, Madam Chair.
So
Perfect.
you just have to threaten us with public embarrassment, and that's what you need.
That's all. Okay, great. Moving to H2, current and current task force board vacancy.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, if I may. The Vice Chair Fruitstone reached out to me, and as you guys know, we have a vacancy here for our fifth position. You know, we lost somebody from the task force recently. And so she reached out to me and said she had somebody in mind. What I said is that I would bring this individual on to meet all of you guys. There would be no voting on that position today. I would bring her on, let the vice chair introduce her, and then from there, you know, she can tell you guys just a little bit about herself. And then from there, after this is over, I'll send you guys like her email or contact information. You guys can contact her on your own, speak to her on your own. And then after that, we can at a later date, either the next meeting or the meeting after that, after we get our charter and things done, go to the voting process or whatever. Right now, as it currently stands, it would take 4 unanimous votes anyway, but there would be no voting today is what I made clear. So plus you guys, the other individuals of the task force might have individuals that they may want to come and bring to meet the task force as far as that fifth position before we actually take the voting on that fifth position. So, all right, but I'm going to turn it over, Madam Chair, with your permission. I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Fruitstone, and she can do the introduction.
That sounds great. Please go ahead, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Task force, I would, in searching for a resident that is enthusiastic and loves where they live, which is, I think, a major requirement of El Portal's Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force. I was actually having another conversation with this resident in regards to another village matter. And with all of her passion and enthusiasm, it occurred to me that she would be a great person to fill in our vacancy. And so I was talking with Sandra Valencia, and she is very excited, I hope, and I know that she's in attendance. And so I would like to bring forth and see if she can come and speak on her behalf and give us a little bit of that positivity that we all know from her as well.
Great.
So if we need, so that she knows she's a guest remember.
I think we lost Maribel, but Sandra, welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Please go ahead.
Hi, Guy. Thank you, Maribel, for introducing me. And
okay, Sandra, you are okay. You are unmuted though. She's unmuted, I think.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think there's a little delay with Maribel, but we can hear you.
Okay, but I really appreciate Maribel's introduction, and some of you guys already know me. Just to add up on what Maribel introduced me as, is I'm a resident of El Portal. I've been a resident for almost 11 years. In January will be 11 years. I bought my house January 2010, just like 6 months before my daughter was born. So I was very pregnant at the time, and started doing some renovations in my house and whatnot. And so at some point after my daughter was born, I started getting involved into, the city, how the city was managed. I have always been living in condominiums, so I didn't know what it was like to be part of a municipality with our own police department and our own government. So that was interesting for me. That was pretty new for me. And for the last, I will say 3 to 4 years, I've been way more involved than even before, for many reasons. But I have always been interested in getting into, getting involved in my community. I'm very close with everybody in my block. By the way, we're really close, tight family. I consider myself being lucky enough to have amazing neighbors. Those are my families. I don't have family here in Miami, so this is my family. So, and I really adore, El Portal. I think it was one of the things I wanted to, just so you know, and pardon me, but I wanted to live in Miami Shores, but I couldn't. And then whoa, this is awesome. It's just obviously half the price that I was looking for. Hello, can you hear me? It says your internet connection is unstable, so I'm sorry. So I'm gonna try to make it short. I'm really excited about this. I was talking to Maribel about something else, another subject, and then she brought it to my attention. And I was like, I'm in. I mean, if they will accept me, I would love to be part of it. Back in August, I actually congratulate Kristen when she, on the council meeting, showed us and presented us, all the fundings and all the work that you've been doing for the last, I don't know how many months. But I was like really, really impressed. And then that is something that concerns me a lot, although I'm not the most knowledgeable person, to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you guys. But Kristen is going like this. I don't know. Should I? No?
Sorry, that was something happening in the background with somebody from work was trying to ping me. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, so I was really impressed with when Kristen shared the work that you've been working on and everything that you've been doing. So I'm really excited about it, and I hope you guys will accept me as one of your last members for the committee. I will be really excited to not only help you guys in any sort of way, but also understanding and getting a little bit of more knowledge about, the resiliency and the sustainability and the clean energy systems that we can actually introduce our village to. So I would love to be part of it. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and nice to meet you. I thank you for coming and speaking with us and volunteering your time.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
With Sandra's permission, I would love to, after this meeting is over, email you guys her email address so that you guys can reach out to her individually. And you guys, if you have any questions about, just exactly, what she feels about sustainability or resiliency and things like that, so you guys can get a better sense of, her fit into the task force. With her permission, I'd like to give her your email, give you guys her email after this meeting is over.
You can share my email and even my phone number with them, with everybody. I'm reachable. My phone is my second baby, so I'm always reachable. You can always text me, WhatsApp me, email me. I'm very up there for you guys.
Appreciate that, and I'm sure that I can speak for everybody. Say we appreciate that, Ms. Valencia. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for H2 as far as I'm concerned.
Perfect. All right. So that leads us very nicely into H3, which is our Task Force Board Charter. And I will go ahead and turn that back over to Member Kirk, who I'm hoping will lead us through a screen share of the charter.
Whatever do you mean? Okay, hopefully in a few seconds it will be sharing the screen. Yes?
Looks good, yes.
All right, and of course, Omar mentioned how perfect I am, and I noticed I just had a sentence that I cut and pasted and, left it on there and all that stuff. So clearly I did not proofread it particularly well. So let me just, hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it, and hopefully we'll come up with things that they agree with / disagree with and want to change. The layout's pretty simple. A summary of what the document is, talk about our organization, talk about how we change things, membership, leadership, and contributors, and then what we do with work products, and then how we make modifications to the charter. That was the structure. Tried to make it as succinct as possible. I hope people have disagreements with me on whatever items they want. So I guess if you don't mind, we'll just go through section 1 and people can give their feedback on sections 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. I have revisions turned on, so anything I type here from the version that was sent to you will show up in a highlighted color or any changes.
So I have a marked up version of my own, not that I want to share it, but give me a second to pull it up because I actually prepared for the last meeting with the.
And wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to do this sunshine craziness? You could have given me the updates and we could, anyway, sorry, just,
Yeah.
productivity.
Okay, I have a question visually before we even get started. Do we have to have that El Portal header on every single page, or can it just be the head of like the table of contents, and then as we're reading along, that it would be deleted, or is that something that we are bound to because it is a village document now that we're creating?
I will
I don't
defer
know if,
to people smarter and more experienced than me.
yeah.
I don't.
Well, we should be able to have a different header for page 1 and subsequent pages unless there's anything official.
Absolutely.
No, I was just thinking like it's blank. It's like every single page. I don't know. It just, it,
Does anyone remember what we did?
Madam
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
I'm not on the task force, but I think it makes it look more official. That's just me. I'm not on the task force. But what I will say though is that when I use the when I do the agendas, our names aren't on there. It's you guys' names. And I think is the 5 or right now 4 voting members. If anything, it should be you guys' names. I think the other side can still say the same. You guys are an extension of the government of El Portal. So I think the village hall, the address, and those things should stay the same. We are a manager headed government, so I think that we can keep the Christia Alou on there. Or if you guys want to, we could put on the other side whoever the liaison is, who will be the vice mayor, whoever that is for the task force. But like I said, if you guys look at the agenda, I do put your names on there instead of the council names. But as far
But
as
there's nothing in that requires us to, we could use a document with a different header on page 1 and page 2, right? Couldn't we make a simplified, and we can make it official and it can conform to the standards of the village and it can include the information. But for instance, we could put the village, and we could still keep the seal in the upper right, but collapse and make it smaller and put the village information on the bottom or something like that, right? There's nothing official.
as long as some of the information is there, absolutely, you guys can format it however you want to.
I actually, I mean, the idea is that we're creating a charter that, while being able to be amended, is going to be guiding the task force, you know, in perpetuity. Does it make sense to have the existing council members on there at all? You know, because assuming as this applies in you know 2 years, we may have a completely different set of council people, and this is still going to show these old names.
right. That was part of my point, but I didn't say perpetuity or all of those fancy words.
I think that, not that we have to dicker over it, but I think that we can, I do think we can create a simplified page 1 and page 2 header, you know, like that memorializes the village but strips away the members so that it's more evergreen.
So
I agree. I tend to like having the village seal on every page. So my personal suggestion would be having the address and the village seal, and then that's it, which would, you know, make the whole thing a little bit simpler and less wordy.
are we okay
Yeah.
if after this, you know, I get your permission to do it, but I actually do the
Yeah.
task work later?
Yeah.
Of course, of course. Thank you, everyone. It's just super, it looks cluttered to me on every page.
Just the header on, to be the address and the seal. Do we want the header only on the first page, AKA table of contents, or do we want that same thing throughout the whole document?
I think that we should keep you know, if I was with my design cap on, I would keep page 1. I would keep that official header at the head of the table of contents. And then I would create a lighter header starting on page 2, or, you know, a separate section with a kind of whatever we want to call it, the light header, which maybe would move the seal to the right and put the village information at in the footer.
Okay.
Or keep the village information. I mean, I think the idea is, I think, to create more space on the page in order for the document to actually take up.
So are we in agreement that we're taking off any person's name and we are leaving only the seal and the address on both the header of the page and, yes, for the header of the table of contents page, we will only have the address and the seal.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, or watermark the seal and have the address at the bottom or something like that. That would be another idea too.
Or just watermark the seal, right? I mean, we don't need.
Yeah, watermark it on every page and then
The only
I don't know
That's
that we need the
official.
address on every page.
read. I find if you watermark stuff, it makes it more difficult to read words as they go over the watermark, especially if you print it.
But well, it would just be watermarked like in the top corner, right? Not behind all of the language.
Oh, you just want it in the header then? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I would suggest.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Hugh Gladwin has his hand up, Madam Chair, if you would like to call him.
Mr. Gladwin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you, or if you didn't catch it, that Vice Mayor Nickerson said that the your names in the task force will be at the top, not the members of the council.
Yeah,
So
we're proposing stripping the names off it entirely, Hugh, so that it's evergreen and it doesn't require a change whenever we change the
task force.
Oh, okay.
and it exists separately from the individual
Okay.
members of the task force.
That's fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
I will.
I propose that we send Courtney Kirk to design school for
Or you can just shoot me now. Either one. Okay. So fine, I'll take that. Anything with section 1, by the way, thank you, and I appreciate the fact we did get feedback. That's good.
The only thing I have in section 1 is just you capitalize members for the first time. So I would just, in front of the word members, I would put task force. And then, so I would say to ensure task force members, parentheses, quotes, members. Does that make sense? Perfect. Yep.
under section 1.3 mission, I suggested adaptation as opposed to adaption.
Wait, do we want to, I think we should go in order though, 1.2, just so
Right.
that we're not hopping around.
Sorry, I was skipping ahead. Yes.
Sorry. Okay. 1.1. Anything else on 1.1?
Not for me.
Once, twice. Anything on 1.2?
No.
No.
Anything on 1.3?
Yes. Change adaption to adaptation.
I think I got it.
And before you do that, actually, as I was looking through the resolution, where did you pull that language from, Courtney? It seems like perhaps a merge of two different quotes.
That was actually what we had, and I took it from the notes, I believe, from our first meeting that we had when we talked about what our mission. Let me bring those up. I think.
So I was just looking in the resolution from the village, and I mean the substance of it is obviously accurate. I just want to make sure if we're quoting it, it's actually a quote,
So what I'm, I'll share this one. So these are the notes from the July 28th, where we talked about the purpose, and we said we agreed that this was the mission statement. So I copied it.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, we could change it in our mission. That's fine.
I think
that's where I
it's
got
substantively correct. I just was wondering, I didn't see that quote in the resolution, so that's fine. That clarifies it for me.
Hold on, I'm gonna share again. There we go. Okay, anything else on 1.3?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Devon.
Yeah, where it says to respond to global warming, climate change, at the very least, I don't know, that seems odd to me.
I'm going to jump in. I totally agree with you. That's how the resolution that the council passed refers to it. It's, to be taken in response to the challenge of global warming, climate change. So I also don't love that language. But I think we're just mirroring what the council.
Tweak it if we want. I mean, we have a foundation in the resolution, but if we want to provide emphasis or clarity, I think this is our opportunity to do it. So
Let's add a backslash between global warming and climate change.
or just a backslash.
I would put a backslash so it includes them both.
Or just cut out,
Yeah.
just leave it as climate change, but whatever.
I think that's what I would do, but if we want to mirror the line, yeah, you know what, Kristen, I think I agree with you. If we want to, I don't love that the village resolution says that, but if we want to be consistent, why don't we just do a backslash?
Okay. Anything else on section 1 before we jump to section 2? Going once, going twice, sold. All right, so section 2, we've got the structure, the membership requirements and term, and yes, that was my sentence that I just left on there that meant nothing. Then we go with the role and responsibilities and broke things down.
2.2, it needs to be completed, right?
Yeah, I deleted that. If you're looking at the one on my screen,
Oh, sorry.
I already deleted that because I'm a poor cutter and paster.
Got it. So it ends with replacement member.
Yep.
Okay.
So on 2.1, so I looked at the resolution again, and it actually kind of implies that there should be 4 voting members instead of 5. It says the task force shall consist of a minimum of 5 members appointed by the council, including a member of the village council who shall serve as a liaison to the council. So it's actually saying that Vice Mayor Nickerson should be voting and is the 5th member of the council.
Well, it does say minimum, so I think this is our opportunity to say what we think that number should be.
But I also, wasn't it how many council people do we have? It's one, wasn't it a nominee of each person?
Yeah, that was the original structure.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, and Ms. Valencia has her hand up, but first, Madam Chair, if I may. Yeah, so I mean, the way that everything was created when we created, I mean, you guys were there for the most part, which was every council member, we had somebody that we assigned to the task force. So those were the 5 members, basically, for the council members. And then you guys would have a liaison, which would be the vice mayor. And then we made it and we changed it so that we would say that it would always be a minimum of the 5, but it could go up to 25, I believe we said something like that. But those 5, I think you guys should establish that those 5, in my opinion, this is the way it should be, since you guys have 5 that were originally, assigned by council members. I think that you guys should have a voting membership of 5. But up to 25 in the task force, but a voting membership of 5 is the way that I think.
That's fine with me. And Courtney made a good point that the resolution says a minimum of 5, but this is a little bit of a discrepancy that the resolution is labeling you as a voting member.
That's not correct. Trust me, I would love to vote with you guys, but
well, it doesn't say voting member, but I think it's fine.
It wasn't written correctly. But what I would do is, hopefully after November, I'll have that. We'll go back and we'll have that rewritten the right way and have it voted in the right way. So that's what
Yeah, it does say 5 members appointed by the council.
Yes.
And then including a member of the village council.
So the council appointed.
Yeah.
6 members.
I don't know. I think if there's no objection, I'd like to proceed with our 5 because I think that's what our approach has been and what, although worded poorly, I believe that to be the intention of the council.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. To bring
the council. Yeah, I mean, I like Omar. The council can go back and vote on bringing it into line as long as there's no objections. We'll align them both up, right?
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that after November. Madam Chair, remember, Ms. Valencia has her hands up just for you.
Oh, Ms. Valencia, please go ahead.
I have just one question. This membership requirement, this 2.2 point here, is regarding the members of the task force, or because I'm confused. I don't know. Well, just presenting myself and being introduced of wanting to become a member of the committee or the task force, not committee, but the task force. With this point, I understand that the council is the one that needs to be unanimous in the vote for me to be part of it, or is it that you within the task force that you're unanimously vote for me to be part of it. I'm just confused.
Down below, you'll see this charter addresses that, and this right now we're just trying to formalize the charter, and the charter does address that down below about how subsequent new members are added, right, Courtney?
Yeah, Sandra, it is later on in the charter. Unfortunately, unlike the council meetings, we don't send out the attachments. At least I don't believe we send it out to the entire world. We just have it for the council, for the task force members. So they've had a chance to look through and see that adjusting membership during the term is part of what we are proposing that the task force does. But at the end of the term, each time, it is done by the council. So they do it for one-year terms. If there's any changes in between, that's us.
Right. So Sandra, you would be serving the remainder of the term that we are already on. So it would be, 9 months or 8 months, however much we have left of our terms.
Okay, and after that point, it has to go back to the council to vote on the new or the same 5 members, correct?
Exactly.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm fine with, I just wanted to bring up the issue with the resolution, but I totally agree that's as a floor, and I'm very happy with the 5 seats. I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Okay, anything else in 2-1? By the way, good afternoon, Chief. Lovely.
Good afternoon.
2-2, Courtney, the last appointed replacement member should be capitalized.
Yep.
And welcome, Chief Magnuson.
Anybody else aside from my dangling sentence there, which we're deleting? Anything else? 2-2?
No.
No.
Okay, on to 2-3. Let's start with 2-3-1, where we talk about the task force members themselves and what our responsibilities are.
On the 4th bullet should be voice objective opinions, not voices.
Thank you.
I have no changes on this section.
Anybody else? Once, twice, sold. 2-3-2, the task force chair.
I have nothing.
Nothing for me.
Okay, task force vice chair. 2-3-3.
Looks good.
Nothing for me.
2-3-4, the council liaison.
Looks good.
I was going to say he should bring us all food and drinks, but, I don't know. Thought it'd be nice to Omar. No, sorry. Everything good there. Okay, and then this 2-3-5 was kind of how I just praised contributors.
Real quick, Member Kirk, I'm trying to keep us all on virtual so we don't have to go through the process of meeting in person. We're meeting in person. I take care. I bring everybody lunch every single time, but I'm doing my best to try to fight the system and keep us on virtual so we don't have to worry about, time and just like, throwing people's schedules off and things like that. But I got you. If we ever have to meet in person, I got the food and beverages.
It's on the record, Vice Mayor.
So 2-3-5, the task force contributors. I didn't know how else to phrase this. This was my first stab. I'm more than happy to take corrections or adjustments from people. These are the part-time non-voting members, so to speak, and I just called them contributors.
That was the only question I had on that, Courtney, that you just answered. So given that's the case, I'm fine with this.
And if we need to describe it better or use a different word, I'm fine. No? Mueller?
This is fine with me. The members are the voting members and the contributors are the non-voting members, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to make sure they can still perform functions, including official representation as approved by the task force. So,
It also keeps it clear about who's a voting and non-voting member by calling them.
Yeah, it's
contributor.
it's very easy to read and understand.
Cool. Okay, changing leadership. So this is kind of what I put in. After 1-year term is completed, a new task force is appointed. The task force will elect a chair and vice chair, no term limits. This is kind of like what we had to do the first time, and I'm assuming we would do that every time because you would have new membership or potentially new membership. And then removal with a
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Chris.
I have a red line and I don't know, I'm trying to compare because my document's laid out slightly differently than what I can see on the screen.
you have a
But I have a red line under the second paragraph. The task force chair or vice chair may remove from their position. I don't know.
That's my only change too.
Yep, okay.
But, well, again, I'm getting more eyes on it. So, are we comfortable that the affirmative vote of 3 task force members is appropriate? I mean, I assume this would be how we would go, but you know, people want different numbers. We can put it.
Yeah, it makes sense because you need 3, then that would leave 1 person left. And if you're trying to remove the member, if there are 5 voting, it seems fine.
I think it's good, and it leaves room for if we're down 1 member, right? So.
I agree.
Okay. So anything else in section 3?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Section 4, changing membership during a term, and if Sandra's still around. Sandra, this addresses, I think, exactly what you were questioning.
Exactly. Thank you. I've been reading it. So thanks.
The task force has changes during the term by adding and removing members and vacancies. Full term is the village council.
Just for clarity, I think it is already, you're already making this point, but just to make it a little bit clearer, I would add a sentence in the middle that says village council approval is not required. So it'll say a task changes during a term, village council approval is not required. A full term member requires village council approval as identified in the resolution.
All
Is
right.
that okay with you?
You guys are seeing what I'm changing on screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any issues? Okay.
Nope.
Moving on.
No.
4.1, removing members.
What
So
happened?
this is where I try to put things as kind as I could to make it as unrealistic to remove somebody as long as they're trying. So that's what I have. The numbers, if you want, from 3 consecutive or 6 meetings. I mean, I don't know. I threw those out as baselines. You know, I don't know if you guys like this approach or not.
I like that that's the floor, just to be considered. It's not requiring removal after that. It's just, if you even want to talk about taking someone out, they have to meet these standards. And then it's discretionary after that. I liked that.
I agree. I thought it threaded the needle very nicely.
Okay.
Yeah, but to support and to also restate, we talked a lot about this last meeting. So
Okay.
I think it's nice.
Okay.
Yeah. The only change I have, Courtney, at the bottom where it says note, the village council retains the ability to remove task force members. The resolution outlines when the village council can remove task force members, and the language doesn't line up exactly. So I would just say the village council retains the ability to remove task force members as identified in the resolution.
Which basically is the stuff I listed there, but then they go
Hi.
It just doesn't line up exactly, just like it's slightly different words, so just for consistency purposes.
Not a problem. All right, let's talk about 4.2.
My only concern with this is that, so this is now our second task force meeting since we've had a vacancy, and we haven't filled it. So
right. Well, we don't have a charter yet, so I would say the charter, this clock would start in my mind once we have a charter.
No, I agree, but I think that it illustrates the time that it will take to fill a vacancy.
Okay.
you know, had a vacancy noticed. We had one meeting where we discussed the fact that there was a vacancy, and now this is our second meeting. And I just think we maybe need maybe 3 task force meetings to fill it.
I'll change it, Kristen, Maribel, excuse me.
I'm fine with that.
Lane and Vice Chair Fruitstone.
I support Chairperson Carpenter because we have the one where we have our resident Sandra, but then we're going to vote in the next meeting. So that would be 3 meetings.
In this
So
case,
I support that.
in this case, okay, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I mean, there's nothing that stops us from doing it faster, but I would I would build in a decent amount of buffer just to be sure, right? Like I'm really happy that we have a willing person stepping forward. If we have another willing person stepping forward, then we may not be able to address it even in the next meeting. We may have to, I mean, I don't know how we're going to resolve that. So I'm actually thinking myself whether or not we should go to 4 meetings. Nothing stops us from doing it faster, but just, we don't want to wind up being on the other side of our own policy.
I agree, Chris, and I would be fine with 4 meetings.
So should a clause be put in saying that what we just said, that it's like that we write something down that it could be done faster,
Yep.
but we don't want to exceed a certain amount?
I think the way I used it is fill the vacancy no later than 4 meetings. So if we do it in 2 meetings, good for us. If we do it in 3, fine. If we do it in 4, we're still okay.
Yeah, I think that covers that.
Ms. Fruitstone, does that work for you? I got the no later then.
Yes, I'm good. I'm really chillaxed.
Okay, adding new members, talks about filling the vacant member position by an affirmative vote of 3 remaining members. And then I do go into if there are fewer than 3 remaining members, we have to go back to the council.
That sounds good to me.
Anybody
Me too.
else for 4.3?
We're good.
I'm good.
Okay, section 5, and yes, if I neaten it up, I will do a page break appropriately. But it depends on how big the headers are as to where page breaks are needed. Section 5, changing contributors. Anybody ever have concerns or issues with the intro on 5.x, 5.0, or 5.
No, just want to put a pin in. Does this mean that we need to formally, I mean, we'll have to go back and actually designate contributors who are currently contributing? Like you?
Well, I think the question with that is a contributor a member of the task force such that they are bound by the Sunshine Law?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And I would think that, I'm certainly not a lawyer. I would think that if they are officially a contributor, that they, just because they're not voting, everything else applies to them.
The voting might make all the difference. This is not my area of expertise, but the voting might make a difference. I think that that's actually a really important question to have our village attorney answer, because it would be nice to officially designate people as contributors, but we do want to be cognizant of complying with the Sunshine Act. Vice Mayor, is that something that we could ask our village attorney to address?
Yeah, I'll ask. I think that as a contributor, so for example, we're talking about like Hugh, right? Like a consultant, basically, like a contributor to the and Hugh has his hand up, by the way. But as far as somebody like Hugh, who's not officially a member of the task force, I would think that I have to ask the attorney, because I would say that they're not designated, or they're not binded by Sunshine the way that an official member of the task force is. Even if they're not a voting member, if they're one of the other 20 individuals, we can go up to 25 who are official member, then they are, bound by Sunshine. But Hugh is more like a consultant type of contributor. So, but I'll check on that for you guys. And see how.
I think that there's there could potentially be a significant difference between participating in meetings and being identified as official contributor, and then the difference between a contributor who cannot vote and a member who can vote. And I think we need to have those boxes clearly delineated.
Right.
But Mr. Gladwin, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would never want to be a contributor, I don't think, because, somebody said, I feel like I'm a consultant, a free consultant, but you can call on me anytime you want. And that keeps me out of the business of the task force. And for example, I can work with Kristen individually, even if what I'm working with her is on something that is your sort of business, I would say, I'm not sure what a contributor would be, but let's just say, for example, that you guys were going to work very seriously together on some policy initiative for the village, where you're going to have to be like within your group discussing something. And let's say you decided you wanted to get some kind of specialist person to sit in on all your meetings and be part of your decision-making discussion, not voting, but discussion, then that person might be a contributor, might be on your meetings, might be under sunshine. It would be a whole different thing.
I'd say, Madam Chair, I'd say for now, let's get the answer from the attorney before we decide if we want somebody to be a contributor. So we know what truly the implication of that is. Okay, that means hypothetically, you can't talk to Kristen about this stuff outside of the meetings. Oh crap, I really don't want to be a contributor. Or yeah, we're okay. I can be a contributor and I'm still fine.
I agree, and we want to respect the public policy purpose behind the Sunshine Act too, and I think it's important to just answer those questions and circle back on this once. I mean, we can go ahead and I don't think that actually impacts our ability to pass the charter right now, but I do think we need to understand the implications of the charter.
I agree. I think what it will prevent us from doing is deciding if we want to have somebody, or using Hugh as an example, or Hugh as a contributor at this time, not knowing the implications. But
right. I'm still respecting the purpose of the Sunshine Law. I agree.
See, if I could just add one more comment. I mean, to me, the purpose of the Sunshine Law is if you guys are working on something that's very important for the village, and you're bringing in someone to help you who has special expertise, and it's really important that everything that you discuss is public. So people in the village, you're not having any discussions in secret. That's a whole different type of thing than, you asking me to help you as an individual consultant or whatever. So, I mean, I like having a contributor there because it does allow you to bring somebody in if needed for some really important thing you have to work on together in public. Chances are it won't happen for quite a while, but it's, I think, good to have that possibility there. But you wouldn't want to make everybody who you call on to help you out or do things like as a consultant to be a contributor like that.
okay.
I agree, Hugh. I think that was really well put, and that's my perspective as well.
Okay, so are we good with 5.1? And notice the second piece, which is has to be noticed.
Say that again, Courtney. I'm sorry. The second piece.
That it has to be noticed, that we have to put it in the agenda if we're going to add somebody. And so particularly with what we were talking about here, and maybe we don't want that, but I thought, it gives it a little bit more structure. Same thing.
I agree.
I think to Hugh's point, what we're trying to do is designate a contributor as somebody who is taking a public role in helping the committee, right? So we do want them noticed. We probably do want to be clear about it, that role is under sunshine, pending review by the lawyer.
Yeah, it makes it more transparent to people that are going to come and attend the meeting.
So are you okay with 5.1 and its respective 5.2?
Yes.
So contributors are different from the up to 25 members of the task force themselves.
No, it's just the name we're giving to task force members that are non-voting.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. All right, perfect.
Versus consultants or somebody with expertise that we happen to want to use, you know.
But that raises an important point, Omar. Do we want to have we defined contributors as the non-voting members of the task force? Did we say that explicitly?
It needs to be in there for sure.
Did contributor somewhere, where did I do it? Time to time, task force members may augment its capabilities, including contributors as part of the efforts. They are not voting members. They can still perform functions, including official representation.
Well, so do we want to say something like, and I defer to Elizabeth on this in terms of the language, but while contributors are not voting members, they can be or are members of the wider task force, or something that is explicit about the fact that they fall under the 25?
Contributors are the non-voting members of the task force, like that.
I mean, the phrasing I have is while contributors are not voting members, contributors may still perform functions, including official representation as approved by the task force. If you want something slightly different or more explicit, I'm more than happy to change it.
No, I understand what you're saying. No, it's good what you wrote, Member Kurt. So, because can a contributor be somebody who is not part of the task force, but still contributes?
I think that this sets up a contributor as they're not, despite voting aside, they're playing a lesser role than we are, even aside from the fact that they can't vote. And I think that that's fine, but we should think about whether we want that, whether we want them to be on equal footing aside from voting, or whether we want them to play a lesser role.
Well, so to go back to the original resolution, where do we get that 25 person number from? That's in the resolution, right?
I don't think it is. I think it's talked about.
Yeah, I think it was just discussed. I'm not really seeing it. Vice Mayor, do you know whether it's explicitly written in here?
Explicitly written in there. It was discussed. It was part of the vote, but it wasn't written in the resolution. Where we go up to 25 will be the cap limit that we said.
I think it was Councilperson Urban's suggestion, who is on, maybe. Let's see.
Well, it was Urban. Yeah.
Hey,
it was,
sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Councilperson Urban, please.
So I don't know that we established a limit. I know my vote was to have no limit whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know that a limit was explicitly established, though.
Yeah, we voted.
I'll go back and watch the video. I can get an answer and email it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's not written in the resolution, it's important to animate our discussion, but I don't think that.
Yeah, I think the council kind of hit an impasse on that, and I think there was a lot of input, but nothing was resolved.
Gotcha. So my thought is that unless it's specifically written in the resolution, we want to implement the village council's intent into this, but I don't know that we need to explicitly say the number 25 or anything like that, since it's not in the resolution.
So there was some question on whether we need to, I believe, whether 2.3.5 needs to do anything more explicit, talking about the contributors as being members of the task force. Any additional changes anybody wants to make or suggest?
No, Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
No, I think that because of how we are right now, as far as the 25 was not written into the resolution, then I think that it doesn't have to be as explicit as we thought it had to be. Because if the 25 was written into the resolution, then we would have to differentiate outside contributor opposed to a part of the 25 contributor. But since we don't have that, so basically the way it is right now is that we have the 5 voting members of the task force, and then anything outside of that is a contributor.
And I think that this distinction is really important because the entire rest of the charter deals with removing and appointing members and our responsibility as members and how many meetings we can miss as members. So we're definitely setting up a contributor as a lesser role of involvement.
This members being the 5 voting members and everything outside of that are contributors.
Right. They don't have any specific requirements. They don't have any specific attendance, requirements. So I think, again, I think that I'm fine with that. I just think we should acknowledge that that is the case in the way that this is written, or change it to make it different.
Ms. McLean, you had some concerns earlier. Have they been addressed, or do we need to change something?
I'm totally fine with it. As long as, I think we're basically creating a situation where we have 2 different types of participating individual, people. And as long as it's clear, and my only concern was tying it back and making sure that we were aligning with the original resolution. If there's, so I'm fine with it.
All right, so we're on to section 6, work products. I just kind of provided what our creation, discussion, approval words were, and some examples to make sure. Any comments, suggestions, changes, concerns?
I have no changes.
Me neither.
Okay. And then for modifying the charter, since it's the rules of the road, I said 4 as opposed to just a majority. I personally wanted to make that a very high bar to change it. But if everybody's in agreement to change it, then it's an easy change to make. But I didn't want it to just be the same simple majority of adding or removing people. I personally thought that changing the rules of the roads required a higher bar than that. That's my opinion. I'm more than happy to change it if other people disagree.
So
go ahead, Kristen.
I was going to say, so I have a note here, and I say this having written this original note 4 weeks ago, probably. I have a note on your example 2.
Yep.
Where if there are 4 members in attendance and 2 vote in favor, the work does not get approved if it's a 2-2 vote. And my note on it is observation under this rule, it's an advantage to maintain odd numbers. So that would mean that it would be an advantage to go down to 3 or up to 5, but that, and I'm not, it's literally an observation. Just that seems like a suboptimal scenario with 4 members. So anyway.
Agreed. I just wanted to point out, the only reason putting in those 2 examples are to show that 2 people can move something forward if there are only 3 people, 3 members attending the meeting. But if there are 4 members in the meeting, you got to get a majority of the people to agree. It can't just be those same 2. That was the sole purpose of putting in example 1 and example 2. If it confuses things, we should remove them. I'll shut up now.
Okay. I mean, I'm totally fine with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the alternative would just be setting a number, like you have to have 3 people, 3 votes to approve a work product.
And the concern there is if we get to a situation where we only have 3 people either attending or on the task force at that particular time, that means it's got to be unanimous. And if we want that, okay. And that's another way to go, and I don't think that's necessarily bad. So,
I think that could be problematic. I do think that it should just be a majority, and I now understand why you put in example 2. It's got to be 3 out of 4.
It's essentially 3 people and less people.
Right.
yep. If you have 3, you can pass anything.
Right. Right.
Aside from revising the charter.
All right. So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I am too. Comment on 7
I have
for modifications. I think I just want to communicate that the implicit assumption in this is that the village council could change our charter at any time, right? So we require 4 members to change it, but we would always be overrode by the village council coming in and saying, no, we want to change your charter and we're bound by that. Is that Vice Mayor, is that your understanding of the way that we are governed by the village council? Yep, okay.
Would you like me to put something in writing on that? Or
No, I think that's clear that, we're a subordinate entity to the village council and they can kind of change anything that we do. I just wanted to communicate that.
Well, I had another point there, which is also, which we may want to add or whatever. My point specifically on the second sentence, all revisions require an affirmative vote of 4 members. And then I added, or failing that, the approval of a proposed update by the village council in case we fall below 4 members. So, we would be in a position of, if we fall below 4 members under this language, we couldn't actually change our own charter.
So can you repeat that back?
All revisions require an affirmative vote of 4 members, comma, or failing that, the approval of a proposed update by the village council. Meaning the village council can help us out if we,
Yes.
fall into dysfunction, basically.
So do we want to say failing that, or just at any time we can get the village council to approve it? I guess do we want it to be 5 members? Do we always want 4 people to approve it, or are we really concerned about the case where there are only 3 members and we can't address this?
I would argue that we don't want to be changing our charter frequently. We may change it in the next 6 months as we're a new entity, but I would suggest after that, we are unlikely to want to change it on a regular basis. We should have some situation that came up that we didn't consider, or we're using it, executing it, and we realize the rules that we had just suck, and we need to change. And that's a technical term, by the way, in case you were wondering, that it just sucks. So I think I would suggest we need to change the rules. We would want 4 members. And I think hopefully this sentence gets what both of you are raising, or approval of the proposed revision by the village council.
I'm fine with that. I was mostly just thinking about if we got upside down, like what's the mechanism for putting it back on track?
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right.
I think that's a good addition.
Okay. So.
All right.
Go
ahead, Courtney, sorry.
I think it's up to you, Madam Chair, whether you want to see one final version of it with the pretty header and footer and just have a vote at the next meeting, or whether you would like to take a vote now. I think content-wise, we are complete. Formatting,
Unless Vice Mayor Nickerson sees a problem with us voting on a slightly edited document, I would prefer to vote on it today. What are your thoughts, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I would too. Instead of waiting another meeting.
You guys can vote on it. All the real changes have been made. You guys can vote on it. Everything else is just,
formatting.
test or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, it's up to you guys. No problem with that.
Okay. Well, great. Does anyone have any other changes that they want to make before we
Does it have to be reviewed by the village council? I mean, not council, the lawyer, I should say.
Oh, that, maybe.
He's saying,
I wanted to say one thing. Do we have to have that 25 in there? I'm only thinking for, I'm going to use the perpetuity word, because you know what, it would be awesome that as many people would want to be a member, or do we want to limit ourselves with an amount? You know, we have other organizations where they have a charter and there are no limits as to how many members they can have. So
well, I don't think we don't have a limit on the amount of contributors. So if the thing is, we set this up so that contributors play a slightly lesser role than we play and have less requirements. And to the extent it's set up like that, there is no limit on the amount of contributors.
okay, I thought somewhere we're talking about 25.
I think we decided that we didn't need to add that.
I think we should add that either. Madam Chair, Councilperson Urban has his hands up, Madam Chair.
Councilperson Urban, please proceed.
Hello. Okay. So just an additional piece of background on why I am a little bit adamant about not having a limit is, you know, this is a long-term task force with eyes to, I believe, 2100 at least. But
I have bad reception today, so.
Oh, am I breaking up?
Mayor, I think that your internet is a little bit behind, so there's a little bit of a lag.
Yeah, that's why I was trying. Maybe I missed something because I'm lagging. So, all right, sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry about that.
And so, even so, 20 years out, in the near term, for what we're talking about, 20 years out gets us to 2040, and sea level rise alone will already become one of the dominating realities on Earth at that time. But that's literally the tip of the iceberg. So pollution is hitting a critical mass, and that is all types of pollution, not just plastics, chemical and groundwater, drinking water, water availability, water condition on Earth in general, right? So 20 years from now, everyone's going to start like waking up and paying attention, like, oh crap, there's, you know, all this stuff going on. Now get to 2060 and beyond. I just think in terms of limiting what's going to happen in 2 decades to 3 decades is every single industry on Earth will have a resiliency aspect to it, which means you are rapidly going to get to 10 to 12 disciplines, each with an individualized expert that's trying to participate. If they bring on one additional person, you're already at 25. So maybe for the next, 10 years, we're probably fine with, maybe 10, 15 people. But in really thinking long-term on this, I really do think the closer we get to 2060, all of this is you're going to need multiple dozens of voices, even from village this side, to be able to handle all of the angles. We humans have not even begin to think accurately about this. And everybody, as time progresses, there's going to be more and more people who have both the expertise and the will to participate. And I think there should be room for them. That's all. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Councilperson Aram. Just to clarify, the charter has no limit on the amount of people. We left it completely open-ended. So I think that gives us the ability to adapt as needed into the progression of the climate that you just discussed.
Okay, Madam Chair, if there's no more discussion on this, then I'd move that we accept the charter as edited.
I second that.
Madam Chair, roll call. This is for the SNR task force board charter, you guys. Either yes or no. Member McLean,
Yes.
Member Kirk,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fruitstone,
Yes.
Chair Carpenter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the charter has been accepted 4-0.
Great. Thank you guys. And Courtney, thank you so much.
Yay!
And all the time you spent formatting and thinking through that. We really appreciate it.
No worries.
All right. Great. All right. We'll move on to, we might actually finish on time today. Moving on to H4, the update on the Little River water quality. Member McLean, is this your agenda item or Vice Mayor?
I think this is a holdover from like we got added last time, right? So I don't have an update on the science of the river. I am meeting with waterkeepers this next week, and I'm meeting in my role as the Little River Conservancy, but I will report back to this body in my task force role also. What I'm trying to arrange through the Conservancy is a series of community talks over the next few months. The river has the River Conservancy has a regular standing third Thursday meeting on its calendar, which we haven't put out to the community yet, but I'm trying to arrange a series of public community invites to those meetings, and I do want to present the science from waterkeepers.
Kristen, are you bound to third Thursday of the month? Because that's women's club. That's women's club.
I'm not. It was what the interval that we were meeting with Oakland Grove, so I can.
I'm just because I think a lot of the members would like to go.
Yeah.
So if that's possible for consideration for reschedule.
But we could also make that, we could do crossover. Well, we could talk about it. I haven't scheduled them.
We could talk about it. Okay.
I haven't scheduled them, but I am sort of building on what I talked to you guys about last meeting. The Conservancy has joined this Biscayne Bay, this call for Biscayne Bay organizations around water quality. So we're in there with Surfrider and the Ocean Conservancy and Waterkeepers and FIU and Miami, University of Miami. There's just a large group of organizations. So the Little River remains a focus. We gave a question. There was a big Biscayne Bay water health town hall this past week, and we spoke on behalf of the Little River. Little River continues to be an area of high interest for all these organizations. So anyway, I hope on our next meeting or two, I'll have more of a specific update and can bring some of the science into the record of this meeting as well. There was another fish kill over the weekend, though, I will say, by that. It was reported in Hallover, North Bay Village, and Morningside. So the problem has not been resolved.
Thank you, Kristen. I know that Miami-Dade County and the task force from their perspective is still working on putting together their final reports on septic and all that kind of stuff. And I listened in on their meeting yesterday, and the mayor's report was still not finished. So I think that they'll have that hopefully by the next the county board meeting. So
the Biscayne Bay Task Force plan, I hope, is feeding into that. It's part of our documents that we put together for last time. It's a really good read. I would recommend everybody read it because it's very, very specific about. There is going to be a lot of push around septic to sewer, and I think there's opportunities for us. But part of what this Marine Health Summit was advocating for is we're going to have a new Bay officer appointed, whose job it will be to try to coordinate a wider plan for the whole Biscayne Bay area. And the head of DERM spoke to this town hall. And so it seems to be that there will be, that this part of this Bay officer's job will be to try to link like shovel in the ground projects like what we're trying to mount with a wider plan for the Bay that will hopefully free up some resources. So anyway, I don't have anything more specific than that to report, but I thought it was a great meeting. It's online, it's available to stream. It's a 2-hour meeting, and seems like there's some momentum. So that's cool.
That's great. Thank you, Kristen. We may, I guess it won't be the next meeting, but the meeting after that, to have the county's updated plan on septic to sewer, which may feed into some of the work that the villages are doing on that. So hopefully that brings some positive news.
Chair, you see Mr. Gladwin's hand is up, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Glavin, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add to what Kristen said, that part of the issue in the fish kill is, extremely low oxygen levels and water coming out of the Little River. At one point, I think during one of the last fish kills, it was actually measured as 0% oxygen.
Yes, for 72 hours, not
72 hours, yeah. But this is something that is of major concern for El Portal, because we're like at the drain end of the C7 basin, that has like 800,000 people living in it upstream. And it's pretty clear based on past things that most of that nutrient pollution is coming from upstream. So I think there's a policy issue that's really important for the task force to kind of press on the village and the village council. I know that at one point Mayor Cabillas was trying to work towards getting a kind of coalition or compact of all the communities, incorporated communities, areas of the county upstream in the basin to work together on this, because there are, there are things where there's going to be a lot of pressure on El Portal. I mean, for example, if we solved all the sewer, if we replaced all the septic tanks with sewer in El Portal, that I believe would have very little percent contribution to ending the fish kill problems, because we have such a small population compared to the population upstream. And there are also very serious planning going on that affect water quality, but most particularly affect flood control with sea level rise that's going on, that, that El Portal has to really sort of take an active role in, because it's going to have huge consequences for the village. So this is an issue, much wider than just, we sort of think of water quality as sort of doing good and all, and it is, but there's policy issues that are really important in this too for you guys. So this isn't for anything now, but just to be aware of in the future, and very important to participate and keep track of the groups that Kristen is talking about, because it's going to have a huge impact on not just the quality of water in the Bay, but actually on El Portal itself.
Yeah, I want to memorialize this and propose for future, one of the things that we can carve time out for in this meeting, and I'm still trying myself to get my arms around all of it, is to try to look at the different the plans that are already out there, and also the plans that are coming, because there's several different overarching proposals that are being made for the Little River area that I hadn't even heard about until I started having these conversations. So I feel like, we can maybe set an agenda item or some mechanism for just talking about, or at least having access to the materials for some of these plans. So I'm going out right now to try to collect them and have these conversations. So just for as a future action point, we should be aware.
Hugh and Kristen, are some of the things you're talking about, like the Army Corps back base study?
So there's the back base study. There is actually, what Katie Hagem and the Resilience Office has been working on. There's a plan from Durham. The river has actually been designated for 5 years of mitigation, but that under a plan that I haven't seen yet and want to get my hands on. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. They're not all coming from the same place, but they all have potential to impact this community. So I think, and also they are all directly relevant to the issue of the river contributing to the health of the bay. So, I think we should at least know what they are.
And by the way, I've been working extremely slowly on it, but I am trying to get together this website that has all these different plans, all kinds of material when we talked about it before. So, as Kristen gets documents, we'll put them there and try to, have one place for you to be able to access everything without having to do all this research and digging up of documents yourself. So slowly but surely it will get there.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I definitely think that will be a large point of discussion in the future, all those projects. Anything else on water quality before we move on? Our hands. Okay, great. So we can go ahead and just establish, unless anyone has an objection, our next meeting is October 21st at 3:30 p.m. That still work with everyone? Yep. Okay, great. I know we have a few things on unfinished business, so let's go ahead and jump to that. We can, I just wanted to update everybody on some of the work that I had been doing on, connecting with some of the neighboring communities. I had a meeting with the one of the Miami Shores members of their task force last week, and that was really productive. We agreed on really all of the big picture issues. We discussed a lot of the fact that the stormwater drainage from Miami Shores is moving down through El Portal, and the need for each other from that. Maribel, do you mind muting? I think there's some feedback. Thank you. Just talking about the impact that our communities have and the fact that there's no clear, just despite the fact that there's a political line, around municipalities, the environment doesn't work that way and they need to work together. We're very much on the same page. As an update on their progress, they have not yet had their first task force meeting. So the individual I spoke to is going to let me know when they do. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. I also had a call with the University of Miami Law School's Environmental Justice Clinic, and they're really focused on energy conservation, and they were interested in speaking to us in the future on energy conservation in residential buildings. And so that's going to be something down the line, but I just wanted to mention that something that an issue that might come before the task force as a way to just reduce our carbon print as a village. And then that's all the updates I have. I know, Courtney, you wanted to discuss streetlights. I'll go ahead and open that up. Does anyone have any? I read the email, but that's about all I have. Kristen, I know you mentioned some wildlife implications. Do you want to kind of give us an overview of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I was trying to find, I was listening to a podcast, which is, I feel like every sentence that I say these days starts with that phrase. But I'm trying to find it. But the gist of it was a story of a community in California that changed out its streetlights in exactly the way that's under discussion right now. And the the gist of it is that it wound up being, when they switched from the old sodium yellow lights to new LEDs, it actually made the light harsher and they were brighter, even though the bulbs that FPNL is talking about are wildlife approved, whatever that means. The email does talk about them being brighter, and that actually is not awesome from a light pollution point of view, especially if we're using them in the same street lamps that aren't shielded from the top. So I would, and I don't know how we take action on this or what we do, but my question to the council or to the subcommittee is that I would really, really like to be able to actually see examples of these streetlights before we commit to putting them in. Like, can we go around and look at them? Because the story that I heard about this California town that did this is that they were supposed to make the communities safer because they were supposed to be brighter, but in fact they were so bright that it really created a real harshness on the streets, and it actually made it harder to see beyond the lights into the darkness on the other side. So not only were they bad for the wildlife, but they actually weren't super great for crime prevention either, because they made it difficult to see beyond the lights themselves into darker areas beyond. So, and I'm not saying that that is the case with these lights, but I would just, me personally, feel like those are questions that the village would be wise to answer before we put the bulbs in, rather than dealing with it afterwards. So I just wanted to put that into the record.
So, Madam McLean, the email from Councilperson Perella did provide a couple of addresses where we can go and see the lights. So I think to that extent that might be an excellent idea, to actually see them and say, oh my God, you know, hurts my eyes just to walk by it, or not a big deal. Wildlife aside, that's clearly not something that we're going to be able to see just by walking by.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know, and I didn't see whether these were what the temperature of these were, i.e. how yellow or blue they were. I didn't see that in the email. Maybe I missed it.
He does mention that they do raise the point that in order to be wildlife friendly, they need to be warmer. So yeah, that's definitely, but also they're brighter, and it's not just the warmth, it's also, they're putting out more lumens, these lights. Yeah. So that's, I think, something we should, if we're going to go, we should just make sure we do our homework, because once we put them in, we won't be able to go back. It'll be very hard. So.
And of course, we are also balancing this with public safety. You know, if we turn them off completely, then you can't see anything, and that's dangerous. So I agree. There's a real balancing act here. And for me anyway, the numbers don't help. 76 watts does not give me an idea, especially when we're talking LED, how bright that is. It's something I really think, to Kristen's point, you need to see and see whether this is obscenely bright or reasonable. Is there something that we as the task force, anything we should be doing as far as suggestions to the council, or are we then, is this not a sustainability thing, and is this simply a wildlife thing, you know, and therefore we as individuals might want to give the council input, or is this something that we as the Sustainability and Resiliency Board should be?
So my thought is that wildlife is sustainability. You know, protecting wildlife is maintaining a sustainable village. And hearing Kristen's story, I'm like now having flashbacks to college, hearing a similar story as you said that. But it seems like, given our status as a bird sanctuary, I think it would be worth having the village reach out to Audubon or National Audubon, to their biologists there, and just ask them a quick question about the impacts of this particular bulb that we've chosen on life in our village. And I know that Tropical Audubon is intimately familiar which birds are native to this area and which birds migrate through here in the winter and things like that. And it seems like a question that they would probably be able to answer really easily. And given their status as a nonprofit, would not be a big pole for them. Is there any way, to Courtney's point, that we could recommend something like that to the village?
I mean, I'm on board. I'm on board with that. Yeah, I'd love to see the Autobahn sign off on it. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even that, because this is something that it's not a super long process. We're trying to move into it fairly quickly as a village council. But I think that even at the next village council meeting, you guys can address the village council in the beginning. I can put you guys on the agenda, have a representative like Kristen come on and say something about it. Also, you guys are still residents. You guys can reach out to the village manager, who the village manager is the one to where this would all run through also.
So as another suggestion, just given that you said it's kind of time sensitive, I have a relationship with Tropical Audubon Society, and I'd be happy to just coordinate with the village manager about the exact specifications, and then connect the village manager to Tropical Audubon, and just to get an advisory opinion.
Madam Chair, what we could do also, if you guys remember, I believe that Member McLean is the liaison for to the village manager for the task force, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, for LMS stuff, but yes, of course. Like we could, yeah, but Elizabeth has the, I don't want to, this is another example of not wanting to file a sunshine. I think if we're being time sensitive, I would suggest that we as a committee make a recommendation that Elizabeth, who has the relationship, coordinate a call or a contact with Audubon, and that the committee would like the village to make sure that they're compliant, or that, double check their environmental impact from a.
Right, and what I just want to make sure, I think it's good to get their information and input, but I don't think they're the only party that we potentially should listen to, because I do believe there is a public safety aspect to lighting as well. If there are other alternatives that we can consider that accomplish both, that's absolutely great and ideal. But I don't think one group external to us should provide an answer that we blindly follow.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, seek their opinion. That's what I would, that's
Right.
the way I would propose.
I agree. And I know Mr. Gladwin has his hand up. Hit Mr. Gladwin, then come back to you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think if we can get a big benefit from swapping one type of lamp for another under certain circumstances, and we get really good judgment on on the effects of it, I think that's fine to do. But in terms of long-term issues, this light thing has been going on in the village for a long time. And a lot of it has to do with changing fixtures rather than changing bulbs. I mean, in general, we still have a lot of the very high bright lights that are up in the trees. That's like a total no-no in terms of both public safety and in terms of light pollution, wildlife, and everything. You want to bring the light down nearer to the street. You get much more light where it's needed for public safety. It can be directed down onto the street instead of out. And we actually went through all that, I think in the 2003 when we redid 87th Street. We brought the lights down as they are now. Unfortunately, at the last minute, I think the wrong kind of bulbs were selected, and they should be a different temperature and so on. But I think that's an example of how light should be, where they're down nearer to the road, and you can accomplish all these things, public safety and everything else, with much less brightness. So, I say swap out bulbs if that helps, but sort of thinking on long-term planning things for the village, maybe this even touches in the comp plan, that the comp plan should have something in it about lighting policy that you guys might want to push, because it is really, really important. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gladwin. Vice
For-
Mayor?
Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, so I was just basically going to say some of the things that Mr. Gladwin was saying about the long-term process, also about the comp plan. I was going to mention the comp plan, and I'll definitely reach out to them and see what they feel about that. But I was going to say, I think it is a great idea, Madam Chair, for you to reach out to Tropical Audubon Society and get back to the village manager with that connection. And please CC me in those emails also, because at the end of the day, myself, Councilperson Erbaum, we're going to be the ones that have to be up there to direct the village manager at the end of the day. So, we're the last stop. But I definitely was going to say the same thing that Hugh Ladd was saying, especially about the comp plan. And being that we were talking about the comp plan recently, this is one of the questions and stuff that will come up. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Okay, so Kristen, you're sharing your screen, right?
I do. I'm sharing it on purpose. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay, good. I just want to point the council and, members of this committee and the council and anybody who's looking at this for the public record, that this is the podcast that I was talking about. The podcast is called Nocturne, and the episode is called The Vanishing Dark. And it's exactly the story of a community dealing with changing their light bulbs. So anyway, I highly recommend it. It's a really good, very enlightening, no pun intended, kind of pun intended, podcast on this very topic.
You got to lean into that, pun intended.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing from everybody is that it's worth, I'll connect with the village manager to connect with Tropical Audubon, and we can at least get a recommendation from them on their perspective from a wildlife standpoint.
Certainly, or simply, these are the impacts, and if you do this, then you can expect fewer birds of this type or whatever. Just so we're making or the council is making an informed decision.
Okay, great.
And we'll have to go take a look at those addresses to see the lights.
All right, perfect. Does anybody else have any unfinished business or new business?
Madam Chair, there are 3 action items that are sort of open from last time. One of them was need to address how to deal with the flood event that applies to El Portal but not Miami-Dade County. How will the village handle it? Need to have the village council /manager / chief involved. And I don't know if that's for the next council meeting, but that was what our notes say. So
We came out after our last meeting that the lawyer had to review that, right, Omar? It's under review. Our whole flood policy is under review, including that piece of it, I believe.
Yes, from the county and state. So we'll have to carry that over, Member Kirk.
okay, thank you. The next one, identify a potential new voting member for the task force. So clearly we have Sandra, but I don't know if anybody had anybody else that they were keeping in their pocket. But certainly we have Sandra, so I'm going to leave that open until we actually close the position. And then identify appropriate additional organizations for communication / collaboration.
So right now we have Miami Shores, North Bay Village, South Florida Water Management District, Biscayne Park. I think that Member McLean Member Fruitstone is going to speak to, right? And
I'm doing North Miami and Biscayne Park were mine.
Okay.
So I have not made contact.
Okay. And I additionally spoke to, I had reached out to Miami School of Law Environmental Justice Clinic. So we can add that to the list as a partnership.
And for the record, I just want to let everyone know I did reach out to the village manager to try to set up a meeting on the LMS support that we talked about last time. I have not gotten a meeting on this schedule yet with her. I did just ping her again, so it's I'll let you know.
All right. I think that, Courtney, for purposes of the notes, I think we can probably close that out and then add partnerships as needed.
Okay,
Does that make sense to?
sure.
Yeah, Kristen, Maribel, yeah. Okay. Okay, and was that the last outstanding action item, Courtney?
That was the two that were closed between last session and this one were the distribution list and the bio and photo.
Perfect. Okay. Any other new business or unfinished business? I will open it up to the public for good and welfare. Anybody on the line have anything to add?
Chair, if I may, very quickly. Madam
Yes.
Chair. First of all, I just want to say, thanks to, Ms. Valencia, thanks to Councilperson Erbaum for being here. Thank you to you guys, the task force. I really love you guys. I appreciate everything that you guys do. I just wanted to really point out Chief Magnuson. He came on kind of late. And Chief, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself for a second. He came on kind of late because, unfortunately, recently there was a death associated with a police officer, and this police officer did have ties to El Portal through his father. So, Chief Magnuson, if you want to go ahead and just mention that really quickly. I know you were late for that reason, but you still came after the funeral process and things like that to be here, and we really appreciate that you taking out your time to do that.
Yeah, Officer Aubrey Johnson passed after in a line of duty incident where he was chasing somebody towards Achilles, had surgery on it, and a week or two later afterwards, I guess a blood clot formed and he passed. His parents, I work with Miami Police, his mother, Dolores, long time prior to retirement dispatcher, who I had the pleasure of working with. And his father, AJ, was a long-term Miami Police, both great people. He ended up becoming a chief of El Portal in around 2003 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, when he retired. Just great people. I can't fathom the loss they're going through. There's no words to explain it. I didn't know the son, the officer, but it's just a family. He came on after I retired. It's a wonderful family, and they're going through a lot, and just keep them in your prayers. But there is that El Portal connection to it as well. So thank you for allowing me to say this.
Thank you very much, Chief. Pretty much it for me, Madam Chairman. I just want to continue to point out how, Chief Magnuson, he joins us pretty much every single meeting. He's very busy, but he does take out the hours to be here with us. And he's usually the only individual from the administration of El Portal who's with us from like beginning to end. And even when he has other things that he has to attend to, he always makes time to come and join us at some point during the meeting. So just really want to say thank you, Chief, and our hearts go out and our prayers go out to the family. We appreciate you joining us. We know that this is very emotional for you. I've been speaking to you over the past couple of days, so I know what you're going through. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for me.
Yes, thank you, Chief Magnuson. I totally second what Vice Mayor Nickerson said, and thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for being here with us all the time. So with that being said, I think we've addressed good and welfare. Does anyone have anything else to add before we go ahead and adjourn the meeting?
Just one thing for Chief Magnuson, that I appreciate all of the due diligence whenever we're having the rain episodes, and that he's always being proactive and trying and monitoring that with him and his group of stellar police officers. That I really want to get the word out to the villagers that this is going on and that it's a super important thing. So I'm trying to figure out how we can let people know that, whenever there's a storm, to know that there are people that are monitoring this and really trying to keep their safety in the you know, under their diligence and guidance
Thank you.
on their water.
Thank you.
I want to also put it out to Hugh, this similar thing. I don't know if you guys know that Hugh has been our local meteorologist along with the chief this whole season and has been maintaining an almost daily website for us. So
Yeah, absolutely to Hugh too.
Yeah, thank you both. I've been closely following those and feel certainly an additional peace of mind knowing that you guys are acting at that. And I know I've spoken to some too. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn today's meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
second, 2 minutes under the wire.
We did it. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say aye. Hearing none, the task force meeting is at 5:28 p.m. 2 minutes ahead of schedule.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You did a wonderful job as always. Thank you, task force. You guys take care. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.